Live by the numbers, die by the numbers. Hey everybody, Coach Brew here, another episode of Coffee with Coach. I have my Mick Cafe Emotional Support Coffee here with me. It's so good when it hits your lips. Little movie quote for you there. Live by the numbers, die by the numbers. That is the worst business model known to man. And it's unfortunately a very common business model and business practice that a lot of people, I won't even just say entrepreneurs, a lot of people in a variety of industries practice. What do you mean, Brew? Well, let me take you back a ways to my previous career as a college coach. You live by the numbers, you die by the numbers. If you get so caught up in the, let's just say metrics, okay? And when I say metrics, in this case, what I'm talking about is from a sales standpoint, your rankings. So whether it's your ranking in conference, preseason, in-season, postseason, national rankings, in this case, if you live by those numbers, you're going to die by them. They can be just as easily used against you as they can be used for you. And, you know, when I was coaching, I didn't get caught up in, oh, what are we ranked in the preseason? Oh, we're ranked 6th in the country. You know, let's promote that. Let's go out and chase a higher ranking. You know, so often people look at the week-to-week numbers. Where are we in the polls? You see this not just with college teams. You see it with politicians. Where are we in the polls? How are we surveying? You know, you see it in business with someone launches something or it's a beta test. You know, what are the numbers coming back? How are things looking? And if you live by those numbers, you're going to die by those numbers. So if you're promoting, you know, we're the number one team in the country this week, what happens when you drop in the rankings? Maybe you fall outside of the top 10 because you have a bad loss one week. A, it's going to be used against you. B, you got nothing to sell, and you're left trying to spin that. Oh, you know, hey, we had a bad day, we had a bad game, whatever the case may be. But you're building a house of cards. It's not a solid foundation. And so let's fast forward from my career as a college coach. Yeah, you know, it's great if you have you finish up ranked 3rd in the country. I've had years where we weren't ranked at all. I've had years where we finished 3rd in the country, 5th in the country a couple times. If you just realize that it doesn't matter where you're ranked, it matters what you're doing. You're going to sleep better at night. You're going to build something that's built to last, that's not extremely fragile and reliant on numbers. And it's just going to improve your sanity and also the viability of your product, service, team, whatever it is. Okay, so let's fast forward from my coaching career to when I retired from coaching full-time and I went into radio. I worked for ESPN Radio, if you didn't know this, in the Carolinas. Hosted a evening drive sports talk show and was a sales manager for the company. We didn't have ratings. We didn't subscribe to like the radio version of Nielsen. So we didn't have ratings to sell and to speak of. And I thought that was a fabulous thing. Because we didn't live and die by, you know, do we have the number one rated morning show? Do we have the number one rated evening drive show? What are our ratings? You know, this is, you know, our listenership because of our ratings. And that didn't dictate how we sold, how much we sold, who we sold to. We just focused on being a little better today than we were yesterday. We focused on the process. Novel concept, right? But so many other stations that we competed against would sell the fact that they had the number one, you know, evening drive talk show, not even sports talk show, just number one evening drive show, let's say, or number one morning show in the market. Well, as soon as they got knocked off their high horse, What happened? People wanted a cheaper rate. But hey, we're not paying for number one anymore because you're not number one anymore. We ought to get a better deal. Instead of focusing on what we focused on as a small 1,000-watt AM radio station, we're never going to be able to sell ratings. We focused on Mr. Advertiser, Mrs. Advertiser. Here's the audience you're getting. Yeah, we're only a 1,000-watt radio station. We don't have ratings to speak of. We don't even subscribe to that service. But you are getting the most affluent, educated audience in America with the best credit scores, the highest incomes, the greatest level of educational attainment, and the most purchasing power. Again, you live by the ratings, you die by the ratings. Focus more on the big picture and the long haul. Fast forward again. We move out of North Carolina and Maine. I go to work for a radio group here in Maine, and they were very focused on the ratings, having the number one morning show, the number one this, the number one that. And exactly what happened was what I just described. As soon as you get knocked off your high horse, the dynamics of your relationship with your advertiser, with your customers, change. So where are you in this story? You might not coach a team that's worried about national rankings. You might not work in media that focuses on ratings and rankings. Well, all that is comparison. It's attaching a metric to comparing yourself to the competition. And anytime we do that, it's not healthy. Anytime we allow our customers, our audience's mind to go there because we're telling them about it, that's not going to be healthy either. It's going to come back to bite you. So instead, focus on relationships, focus on chasing something that is attainable, being better today than you were yesterday. And it's really interesting. You see this same scenario play out in every industry. I just gave you two examples from my world. A third example from my world would be if I were focused on, being a number one bestseller. I had a best-selling book. I had other books that have won awards in book festivals and contests. That's great and all, but I don't live and die by that. That's not how I position myself or what I promote, because stuff changes, Those bestseller lists change every week. It's not healthy and it's not viable long term. And it just, if all you're doing is chasing numbers, it's setting yourself up for failure. And let's say you're on a huge win streak. And that's great. I'm happy for you. You've got the number one whatever in your category for a long time. But you're pushing and pushing and pushing your team to try and stay at number one, most likely, if you're big on chasing numbers. And how do you define success after that goes away, right? And all of a sudden you're not number one. Who you are isn't what you do. Who you are isn't attached to your rating or your ranking either. You see it with musicians. They'll have a number one, the number one song in the country this week. That chart changes every single week. And you will work 6 to 8 months to get a number one song. Your radio team, there are promotional teams at these record labels that will go from station to station in all the major markets in the country and some secondary markets and promote the heck out of these artists they represent and their particular, whatever their particular song they just released as a radio single off their album. And they'll work 6 to 8 months to get a number one song, which does drive sales. There's no question about it. But that song's typically only number one for 1 week. And then it's gone, replaced with something else, probably even falls out of the chart completely. A lot like a bestseller list for authors. Okay? Well, how do you define success after that? You start the process again with another single, and you're chasing a ranking, you're chasing a rating. I share that with you because, you might not be a musician, but you're chasing something. Anytime you're chasing something, you start comparing. And comparison, I forget who said it, some famous person a long time ago, that 100 people have probably taken credit for his quote or her quote, but that, somebody said once, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's so true. Anytime you're chasing, ranking, numbers, you're comparing. I like having a relationship with numbers. Just not like a bestseller number, chasing number one, that kind of thing. I like having a relationship with numbers, but I don't like letting those numbers dictate my every move and my every decision. Neither should you. It's not healthy. You end up coming your decision making comes from a bad place, and it could be a recipe for misery. You think about like how you define success. I'll go back to sports because it's just a great metaphor for life. Sports is a great metaphor for life in that, there's only one team that wins the last game of the season, ever. One team is fortunate enough to win the last game of the season. So yes, you win the championship and you had a successful season. But if every other team out there defined their season as a failure because they didn't win the championship, it's a recipe for destruction, or at least, massive disappointment. So how are you defining success? It doesn't have to be defined by this one number, right? The team that finished second might have overachieved and never should, in theory and on paper, maybe never should have gotten to that championship game, but they did. So by that standard, their season was a wild success. It's probably even more successful than that number one team that was supposed to be there and was probably predicted in the preseason to win it all. And there are plenty of other scenarios that play themselves out like that, both in sports and in life. Every single season of our life. What are you chasing? Stop chasing it. Instead, focus on just being better today than you were yesterday. Focus on maximizing your potential, not with one thing, chasing one metric. If you focus on the process, you focus on maximizing your potential, the result, whatever that result may be, will take care of itself. I promise you that. You just got to keep the faith, right? And you'll stay sane. That's the beauty of it. You're not beholden to one number that you live and die by that can devalue your product, like in the case of radio. You live and die by that number one morning show rating. If you put too much emphasis on that, your rates go down the second you're not number one. Focus on the right things, not chasing a number. Your team, your business, your company, your product, your service, and most importantly, your sanity, your personal peace of mind will thank me later. This has been Coffee with Coach. My emotional support coffee is serving me well today. I raise my cup of emotional support coffee to you. If you'd like more information like this, head on over to CoachBrew.com. Pick up a copy of my special report, 12 Ways to Double Your Sales, Double Your Results. You can do that by going to the top of my website, CoachBrew.com, signing up for my e-newsletter. It's a $99 value, that special report, and it's something that usually only people in my inner circle get. Who are in my inner circle? People in my membership community. They pay $99 a month for that type of content. You get a free sample for free. That was redundant. You get a free sample just for signing up for my e-news. So head on over there, CoachBrew.com. And if you found this video helpful or you just liked it, click the thumbs up. Found it helpful, share, comment, and make sure you're subscribed so you can keep getting more of these. We'll see you soon. Thanks again. Have a great day.